Welcome to Oops, I Talk Politics, the left-wing political podcast where we talk about random political shit or shit in pop culture that we make political. I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl.
Welcome, everyone. In this episode, we're going to be talking about The Big Short.
You mean shorts that are big?
Yeah.
Are they comfy and easy to wear?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about fashion accessories and shit like that. That's our new direction. But no, we're talking about the movie that came out, I think, in late 2005-ish.
Mm-hmm. No,
what?
2005? 2015.
2015.
Wow, this was a very prophetic movie.
Yeah.
I thought a movie that came out in 2015.
Based off a book in 2010?
Yeah, something like that. And starring Steve Carell, Christian Bale, Brad Pitt,
Ryan Gosling,
Selena Gomez.
Gomez.
She's not starring, but she's in
Margot Robbie.
Yeah, but it has a huge cast, and basically it's all about the 2008 banking collapse. And basically about how...
2007, but you know whatever.
Yeah, 2007, but it's all about how a group of outsiders and weirdos were able to predict that the bank crash is going to happen because they actually looked at the loans that were being distributed, and they realized they were garbage and this was destined to collapse.
And they made money off it. That's what the whole story is, them trying to make money off of this inevitable collapse.
So I have a Darryl level confession to make. I saw this movie for the first time 2 days ago. This might be my favorite movie.
In my mind, mine too. I
really like this movie.
Me too.
Like,
It is very...
the story it tells, or as a movie?
Like both.
Both.
Because I really didn't quite enjoy it as a movie.
Really?
No.
To put it in context, for another show on the Comrade Network feed, I earlier in the week I had watched The Godfather, and I found this movie so much more engaging. So just to put it in context,
I think this movie is a movie everyone should see. Like, like you can talk about best movie, favorite movie, but this is a movie I would say is the one movie. If like I were to make everyone watch a movie, it would be this one.
I just think it. I very rarely see a movie that, in my opinion, succeeds so hard at what it tried to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's a kind of movie that might not be for everybody. People might not get as engaged as I did with the characters or with the plot. But, like, it set out to explain, like, the mortgage crisis and show, like, somewhat of the human side of it, but without
a lot of the human side, and that's what made it good, I think.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of the human side, but it wasn't, like... We talked about this in the Hamilton episode, where it was, like... totally detached from the story sometimes, where it's just like scenes of monologue and stuff, and I felt like it was always framed in the bigger narrative of the mortgage crisis.
Yeah.
And there was only like one, like the stuff with Steve Carell's character, like there's some of his personal stuff, but it's so not taking up screen time.
Most of the personal stuff is just to flesh out the characters a bit as the plot's going along.
Yeah.
But Phil, summarize the movie for us.
Okay, so my disclaimer, like I said to you guys before, is I was even hesitant to do this episode at all.
Because he loves banks so much.
I love him. No,
that's why he hates punching Nazis, because he's like the pure centrist, neoliberal piece of shit that we all suspected.
I love Nazi banks.
Yeah.
No, but I really feel like we are under-equipped to talk about this topic.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even as someone, I actually, like, for one semester taught an economics class, and that made me realize, holy shit, I don't know much about economics. It's such a complicated topic that even any piece of legislation having to do with the economy will be like 1,000 pages long and impossible to read. Like, it is a really complicated topic, and that's why I think the movie actually does a really good job, because it does actually break down a lot of these really high concept, complicated things and make it easy for the average viewer to watch.
But I feel like it doesn't dumb it down.
I would admit it does dumb it down.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, yes, it dumbs it down.
It does dumb it down, but it has to, because no one will watch the movie otherwise, and I think it's important that people see this movie.
I feel like it doesn't talk down to the audience, I guess. I mean, it does literally.
Well,
I think it does.
They literally do.
But that's for the joke.
They talk down to the audience, but like we're using these terms that are usually used as a negative, but here it's mandatory to make this into a movie that people want to see.
That's what I mean. Like, relative to what I expect a movie about the mortgage crisis to be, I felt like it gives us more credit than I thought it would.
Yeah, it really does though. It's like imagine I have an apple, and then this apple does like they
But
do
it's
take.
tongue in cheek.
But
It
that
is.
that is really valuable because I knew a little bit about this stuff before I saw this movie. I knew about derivatives, but all I really knew was it's kind of like they will take your money and gamble with it,
Yeah.
and they'll make risky bets. But the movie sums it up as basically people will make bets on your bets while you're at a casino table, and people make bigger odds on each
Yeah.
individual bet towards your card outcome or whatever.
Yeah.
The way they visualize it and make it more palatable to understand was really useful to make these concepts so you can more accessible and so that people can understand what they need to look out for.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to just add to what Phil was saying, I gave an economics lesson this morning that was supposed to be on supply and demand, and I was like, nope, we're going to learn about the mortgage crisis instead, because I was super stoked about this movie. So, like, and I found myself accidentally using a lot of the analogies they were using, because it's done, and this was to a high school student. So, like, it really is digestible, but I didn't feel like I was missing too much.
See, I didn't
Like, I did feel like it went pretty deep.
I didn't feel like it was all that digestible because the movie is obsessed with doing quick cuts to make it seem like more frenetic and chaotic, and it makes it hard to follow a lot of what's happening.
I think I do understand where he's coming from, though.
How do they not do a lot of quick cuts?
They do
Yeah.
the movie's very frenetic, but I think that's just to make sure has your attention as it's going through what should be boring material, super boring material.
But
I
think
could
it, I
see
think
that
it,
being distracting.
yeah, it distracts from the stuff that they're talking about, especially if they're mentioning something from a character, but they're panning at something else, or they're like cutting to it and back and forth between the character talking and something else. Like it's not. I didn't need to sit on one character that's like standing in front of the camera explaining something to you the whole time. But it just like it does it like constantly.
I think it needs to do that because most people aren't going to just want to sit down.
But the
and
people
watch a
sitting
movie.
down to watch this movie aren't the people that need that kind of entertainment or that kind of.
Yes, they are.
I don't think
Most
that's
people-
true. This was pretty popular.
Yeah, this is very popular, and this is popular for people who want to just see Ryan Gosling, Steve Carell, and Christian Bale and Brad Pitt in a movie together. They didn't think about, I want to see about the banking crisis necessarily. And this movie is catered to that audience. I just want to see these guys have fun with their roles. Which
That's
they
really
did.
funny because that's why I didn't see it originally. Because I was like, oh, this is just going to be all these like Hollywood guys having fun with their roles. And then one of my friends was like, you have to watch it. And then I didn't. I was like, oh, I was way wrong.
Was that Sly? That one of your
No,
friends?
it was John.
I did it first, fuck you, like months ago, and you ignored me. But we're the exception that proves the rule, in my opinion, because most people aren't like us in how they consume the media. Just look how popular Game of Thrones is, and I waste my
Oh,
days.
we're not going on that.
All right, yeah. I don't give
It's okay. Let's get to the movie.
Something almost as infuriating as the Game of Thrones TV show, the mortgage crisis. So basically, this movie follows a few, like Sly said, like outsiders in the broker scene. Steve Carell and first there's what's his name?
Christian Bale.
And I think he plays like this like loner who's like weird.
He's
but
like autistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he really like sees all these patterns in the market that other people are missing.
And he's the only person to actually look at all the loans, because people say, there's millions of loans, why would you ever look at them? He's like, I did, because that's what I
Yeah.
do. I look at
And
all this shit.
One thing that most people probably know, but these are all real people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're actors, but they're playing real people. Like, this is based on real events.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have Steve Carell's character, who is also kind of like an outsider or like a loner in Wall Street.
He's like a guy who hates Wall Street's greediness, and he's trying to be like more like a honest banker kind of person.
He's trying to, like, kind of do the right thing from inside the system.
Right.
Yeah.
And the overall gist of the movie is all these people start to see in the mortgage and housing market that a lot of these loans that are packaged together and rated, because every loan is rated at a certain thing, and a lot of these AAA rated loans, which are the best they can be, actually
Meaning,
have
like, the least risky,
right.
Yeah.
allegedly.
Yeah, it's the same way credit works. Like, we were arguing about, like, should the United States have a AAA credit rating? It's like, does someone want to lend to you with almost no risk? And that's the best you want. Like, that's basically the least
Yeah.
risky, best type of loan.
So a AAA loan that you would see would have, like, high credit score, low debt-to-income ratio, stable employment, like, stuff like that. Those are people that are probably going to pay you back.
Right. So they started to realize that in these packages of hundreds of loans, there were actually a lot of turd sandwiches in there. And by that I mean really risky bets.
It was mostly turd sandwiches. Like
Yeah.
Well, originally it was mostly good with a couple turds hidden in there, and as time went on, banks realized they could keep making more and more money by putting lots of turds in there, because then they get more people taking out loans.
Yeah, because they
Right.
couldn't find a way to even sell the turd sandwiches.
And also because they basically ran out of good loans to sell, and they wanted to keep making more money, and no one was
Yeah.
stopping them, so they just kept selling the shitty loans as good loans.
Yeah, and
Right.
because they had, because everything was private, the companies that were in charge of ranking them were kind of like in on it, and were just giving triple A's to things that didn't deserve it.
Right.
Yeah.
And basically, the main characters in this movie want to short this market. And what a short is like most of the time when you think about stocks, you want to make an investment because you're betting that it's going to go up. So Microsoft, I think, is going to do better this year. I'm going to buy Microsoft now. It's going to go up. I'm going to sell it later. A short is when you're like, I think Microsoft's going to go down. I'm going to sell it at the current price of whatever it is. And then once it drops down, you pay it back then. So
yeah, if you rent it from the owners, and then you sell it to somebody else for a price, and when it's super cheap, you buy it back and give it back to the original owner.
Yeah,
basically.
and the way
Right.
Christian Bale's character kind of does it is he goes to Goldman Sachs, right? Well, he goes to a bunch of banks,
he goes to a lot of banks.
and he basically makes a bet with all of their, like he says like, okay, I'm doing these shorts to bet that the market is going to go down, which it's apparently never done before.
Yeah.
And if it goes up, I will pay you premium fees every year. If it goes down, you have to give me like $2 billion.
yeah, shorting is very risky in real life because
Or
if
actually,
you-
it's way more than $2 billion.
Yeah, if you buy Microsoft stock and it goes down, you can only lose however much it drops, which is a finite amount. Because if you bought it for $100 per share, you can only lose $100 per share.
And also, to make it worth it, to make any work no profit, you have to do a lot of money.
I think he does 1.8 billion.
Yeah, $1 billion.
Yeah.
But shorting, when you bet it's going to go down, you have an infinite amount of loss potentially because it can go up forever. And like Ryan said, the housing market since the 1930s has never gone down nationwide.
So the way it gets broken down with his company is he puts up $1.8 billion worth of these shorts, and he says they're going to go down in 2007. And it starts in like 2004. For every year that they go up, Christian Bale has to pay them $90 million.
Yeah.
And then if it tanks, he will make a huge return on his investment. But in the meantime, he's almost bankrupting his company every year.
But on top of that, another element is as they're making these shorts, they're also going around the banking industry and learning like how fucked up it is. Like they learn how one person has a sister who is a regulator, and she talks about how she basically works for the banks and gives them whatever they want. And like same thing with the people who give the credit scores basically just work for the banks because they're afraid they'll go to other credit rating agencies. And the biggest thing is how most people in this industry are fucking idiots who just like getting drunk and partying all the time and have no idea how any of this shit actually works.
So that's all learned through Steve Carell's character, who they stumble upon this deal, and they find out that people think that the market is like these, Ryan Gosling's character and Christian Bale's character think the market's about to tank. So before they give any money, they're like, let's do some like investigating. And they go around to a lot of neighborhoods and they see that all of these loans, these mortgages were given to people with no credit scores, no income, and just basically like they would take their finder's fees and then give them adjustable rate mortgages. So in 3 or 4 years, their mortgages would go up by 200 to 400%. Their houses would foreclose, the banks would repossess them, and the banks keep making money, but now the banks can't flip the houses because they go to a neighborhood in Miami and there's like every single house is foreclosed.
Yeah.
So the bank can't sell and get back their losses, so they're just sitting on a bunch of shitty abandoned houses.
Yeah, and Brad Pitt's character, just as an extra note, is kind of like a survivalist type of guy who basically believes the banking industry is a piece of shit and the society can collapse. And one of the final notes of the movie is Christian Bale's character is he's the guy who predicted the crash, and right now the only thing he's investing in anymore is water. So
Yeah.
it leaves on that ominous note for us.
Yeah, and like Brad Pitt is brought back in by these two like really young upstart like millennials that are like, oh, we took, a $10,000 company and turned it into a $30 million company, And like Chase tells them like that's nothing. That's not any amount of money that matters at all. But to them it's huge. So they're trying to get in, and they bring in this expert, Brad Pitt, who had quit the market because he realized how shitty it was. So they're like celebrating these smart deals they're making, and Brad Pitt is like, you're betting that thousands of people will lose their jobs and die.
Yeah, he says, stop dancing, stop clapping. You're going to profit off the entire market collapse. And he says, like, be happy, but don't fucking dance at least, because this is a horrible thing that's happening.
That's what's interesting, is that, like, the characters kind of don't make any of the action of the movie happen. They just... They leech off of the collapse that's going to happen. They're just making bets on the side.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, we do see some of the characters try to help. Like, they go to the press. They go to the Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal says, I've spent years making connections with Wall Street. I'm not going to publish articles that they're all fraudulent.
Yeah.
And, like, Ryan Gosling's character goes to other banks to try to get them to... I mean, he's trying to make a lot of money, but he says to Steve Carell's character, I went to these banks, and they laughed me out of the room.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And Steve Carell even goes to like conventions, and he asks people in public forums, the market is going to crash. What are you going to do about it? And they laugh him out of the room.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I mean, yeah, they make lots and lots of money, but we do see the internal struggle of them. They're not just sharks. They're trying to help it, and no one will listen to them.
And there is internal struggle in character-wise, because at the end, with it, when
Spoilers.
Spoilers, the fucking economy crashes.
Spoilers. What if I didn't get up to 2008 yet?
But Steve Carell actually struggles. Like, should we sell off and make this massive profit, because then aren't we just as bad as them using making profit off this?
But the counter argument that they make is you're taking money from them this time.
Yeah.
They took money from people. We're taking it back from these assholes that did this.
Except that with the bailouts, it's the taxpayers giving the banks the money to pay them.
Yeah.
So they're still taking money from people.
Yep.
Well, they even say, like, what is the government going to do? Going to bail it out? And then that's what happens, and they're like, well, shit.
And that's another reason why they struggle with it, because they're like, Steve Carell says, like, they knew they're going to get bailed out, and if we take the money now, we're just as bad as they are, aren't we? So it's a lot of, like, discussions of that.
But then he takes the money.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of money. It's millions. Like, 200 million or something they had?
And also, they lost a lot of money doing some entire thing, so they wasted years of their lives and all this time and money to short.
And, like, they're losing their jobs because, like, the banks they work for are folding. They're in the hole for, like, $15 billion.
Yeah. So we kind of hijacked the narration from...
Sorry,
no, it's good. I forgot. I saw this actually over the summer, now that I'm thinking about it. So it's been a few months.
Let's just summarize our thoughts real quick. So, Darryl, you think it's too frenetic?
For the movie trying to convey... Like, you guys saying that... how they're trying to get like a normal audience to understand it, I still think that's like an insurmountable task that the movie couldn't reach.
Okay, so you don't...
But I mean, you can understand to the point, like Sly said, that it's people gambling with your loans.
Yeah. So do you think it's too heavy on the jargon or too heavy on the dumbing it down? Because if it doesn't succeed, it has to go one way or the other.
It's the way they do the presentation.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's not necessarily like, oh, they shouldn't have dumbed it down. It's that you need to make it a lot more clear than you did, rather than just being like, here's Selena Gomez.
Yeah, one of the stylistic choices they make throughout the movie is they say to the audience, like, this is really boring. We could do an exposition dump, or we could do, like, a fun, quirky scene that makes it more fun to watch. Like, here's Margot Robbie drinking champagne in a bathtub, or here's Selena Gomez gambling. And I thought it was really well done.
I did too.
I think I was really impressed by it, but I could see feeling the other way.
I'm also always like wary on films that are based in real life, but they don't specifically say what is taken from real life and what isn't.
Well,
like,
they do actually explicitly say to you, this isn't really what happened. They got a phone call from their friend, but we're going to pretend that they found this.
I know, they do that once, but it doesn't do it throughout like the whole movie about what conversations were real and weren't.
They do that at least 2 more times.
Like Steve Carell making the objection at the one,
and the final meeting at the end with the guy he talked to at the presentation. Like, and I always love that. Like, and when they have like, when they have based on real stories and they actually turn to the camera and say this is part is real. Like it might seem unbelievable, but this part is real. Like in that movie, I forget what it's called.
I mean, they do that in Hamilton too.
Pain and Gain, where they pause
Yeah.
it and they say like, yes, they literally baked human hands on the grill. This actually happened.
Spoilers.
So, do we know how accurate this movie is?
So I was doing a bit of digging just to see what the common criticisms were, and people generally seem to rate it pretty well. I even went on not that this is like the Economist forum, but like our economics on Reddit. People are mostly economists there.
Oh, is that accredited university, Phil?
Yeah, and people generally seem to think it is mostly accurate. They all say that it dumbed it down. They leave out the Federal Reserve completely, which is a big part of it too.
They kind of just like bring up Alan Greenspan and then don't elaborate
and
at
then
all.
they just drop it.
And as soon as Alan Greenspan is mentioned, I'm like, ooh, this is what I want to know about, and it doesn't really come up.
So most people that I've read about do seem to think it is mostly good, especially because they are trying to do this in 2 hours and reach a general audience.
2 hours, 10 minutes,
Yeah. Could you get into everything in a movie length? No, you can't.
Because then when does it go from movie length to dramatized lecture?
Yeah.
Also, you have to be entertaining. Like,
Yeah.
that's always the biggest thing for me.
That's why I thought those little cameos were cool because it is just like, hey, entertainment.
Yeah.
Humans
are pretty we're monkeys. Like you just throw a banana in their face and jiggles keys in their face. Like that's what will make us pay attention. Like we're not like lectures and shit like that.
So the biggest complaints I did see about the movie were that they left out the role of the federal government because some people would say that the movie just says, look at how asshole bankers are, and that's it. Whereas some people would say that the government's role in trying to tell lending companies, hey, lend to more low socioeconomic...
That's something I want to get into later.
Yeah, so I'll mostly save it. But some people say that the government had a big part in pressuring these loan companies to lend to people that they shouldn't have been. And that they were not talked about at all in the movie. It's just about the bank's greed. And even in the end, they're just like, it's obviously trying to say these bankers deserve to go to jail. It says not one of them has gone to jail yet.
They did.
They say one guy.
There was one guy.
They literally did. They literally did go to jail.
But what I mean is like the movie has an obvious like we.
Yeah, but that's I think you have to have when you're making you have to have a point at some point.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I would have really liked to see the government's response and like the things that led up to it. But that is
that should be a separate movie. That
should be.
Yeah,
I would
you're
love
bringing
to
a
see
lot
that.
of different players at
Yeah,
that point into
for
the
sure.
movie.
Yeah, that's very true.
Other than that, people really did seem to think it did a really good job. Even people who didn't like it as a movie generally tend to like the way it presented a lot of these big economic theories.
Yeah, I still think, even with my reservations, that it is a good movie. You should probably see it if you have any interest in any of this.
I heard someone saying the movie Margin Call. I
haven't seen that one. But
I haven't seen it either, so I don't know if it's good or bad. But some of the people who criticized The
Oh,
Big Short for being
it's a-
incomplete.
So it's a movie called The Margin Call. I thought you were saying this movie Margin Calls, and that's a term I don't know.
No. Yeah, some people who are saying that it's an incomplete movie because it doesn't talk about the Fed and things like that. Margin Call does a better job, but I don't know. I can't speak.
I
to
also think that the characters that they focus on are our audience surrogates into the banking side of it.
yeah.
They would have to, like Darryl said, have to restructure all the players to cover the government side of it.
I also just one more criticism about that is that people also say that the movie sets up the situation where it seems like five guys are smarter than everyone else in the world, and everyone's just such a fucking idiot that they all miss this. Whereas people like Paul Krugman, the guy who writes economics for the New York Times, he says like a lot of people actually did realize this was happening. It's just people in positions of power to change things denied it. Like there were other people who were like, hey, the housing market could actually crash. But the movie kind of pretends like it's just Steve Carell.
But broad strokes, people they more like at least on the pro-banking side, the general consensus was unanimously banking was great.
Oh,
Like,
definitely. It's just it's a bigger group than these four guys.
And also, like,
Yeah.
if you're in the banking bubble, that's probably accurate the way they were treated, the way they acted towards it. Like, if you're in the middle of Wall Street, they're gonna act like that. They're not gonna.
Yeah.
People like Paul Krugman probably.
For sure.
No, but I understand what Phil's saying, that it really does seem like these 5 outsiders were the only ones that figured it out.
That also plays better for him entertainment
Yeah,
purposes.
absolutely.
To be the ultimate underdog.
Yeah.
And also, in terms of adding movies that people should see, I recommend the movie Inside Job, which isn't a movie; it's a documentary, but it's about
9/11.
it's about how the bank, how basically the
Slide's
bank.
not funny.
Fuck you. The banking collapse was Inside Job, and it does a really good job of showing how we got to this point, and it narrates how back in like the 70s, like in the movie they mentioned briefly how banking was just a boring job where you have your local banker, and it was just a boring job like that. And then after like the 80s, it became like this booming industry, and all the people who used to bank and own a train company on the side were now just they're like, oh yeah, I'm a financial genius now. I make so much money just because this industry is booming on me, because all we're doing is moving money around. And then it has interviews with people involved with the crash, and you can really see Big Short is fully accurate in how these people are fucking stupid and they're incompetent assholes. These people are pieces of shit. They are pieces of shit.
Yeah, I mean, they destroyed
Okay.
the world economy.
Not thinking they would do it though.
No, but like they through their incompetence, they are hurting the world. They hurt the world. They're hurting the world still.
And also, like, we have to give some blame to people that engage in predatory lending. Like, they
Oh, yeah,
don't,
for sure.
like, when they don't tell people taking out mortgages, like, when Steve Carell goes and sees a stripper who owns 5 houses, and she doesn't understand what an adjustable rate mortgage is.
Yeah.
And, like, you know...
and these aren't bad people, then who is? Like these are like,
Nazis.
yeah.
But, like,
Well, we can't punch them.
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
don't do that.
I took out...
So can we punch bankers? Is that what you're saying?
I would approve of
So,
that.
like,
You just want to assault everyone. It's like
People who are fucking ruining people's lives just for sake of greed to get an extra yacht. Yeah, fuck them.
I agree. Actually.
So, you want to talk about what happened after this, Lai?
I'm going to talk about the reform, quote unquote. Well, not really, not
Quote,
quote
unquote.
unquote,
It is.
but like
It
it is weak sauce bullshit reform.
Weak sauce.
So Dodd-Frank was a bill. Basically, Obama pushed it, and Chris
Sound more excited about this, Lai.
and Chris Dodd, who became a fucking lobbyist, and Barney Frank, another corporatist Democrat asshole, both wrote it. Hence Chris Dodd. And
Dodd-Frank.
Dodd-Frank, or whatever. Yeah, so it was super, just like most of Obama's policies. It was just
Just
to
so
get-
one note.
It's just, but like seriously, it's what he did. He would have a bill that would address very minor things with an issue and say, "Look, I addressed it. It's done." And you have
I think that's fair.
But I mean, if we're being real here, I'm not trying to be an apologist, but if he's like, my bill is going to reform the entire banking industry, we're going to send all these bankers to jail, like, do you think it's going to pass Congress?
but the thing is, like, it's just
No, it wouldn't. That
but then you have like this. In a way, it made it worse because now
It definitely did make it worse.
no, but in a way, it did
that.
because now it became a rallying cry around bankers saying, "Look at this insane fucking regulation
So we
Obama's
should
killing."
do nothing and let them stay satisfied?
No, but like now we could blame it on the regulation, even though there was no regulation.
Yeah, but I don't see how to fix that. If he can't get fully problem-solving regulation through, you should do nothing?
you should fight harder. Like you should fight harder for things that actually matter instead of.
But if he fought harder, I mean, I'm not saying that there weren't things he could have fought harder on. But in this instance, I think they needed something done immediately to fix this problem.
But it didn't fix the problem at all. It just kicked the can down the road, basically. And most of the regulations as part of Dodd-Frank, most of them didn't even take place until years after, and people kept getting extensions on the regulations, any regulations we had.
Okay, but I just took out a mortgage a couple months ago, and the comparison with my experience, and I know this is totally anecdotal, but so many of the things that I had to sign had Obama-era reforms listed on them as due to this bill from 2008, due to this bill from 2010. You have to read this and sign it. And they told me things like in this paperwork, and I know we're in New York, which is a much more regulated state than usual places, but due to federal regulations, I had to see, my bank had to give me a fully accurate monthly cost for the next 30 years for my house. And that's a huge deal, because the whole point of this was they were giving loans to people that couldn't afford it. And I also had to get co-signers because my income wasn't enough. My credit score was great, but I needed 3 people with high credit scores to sign on. Like,
that is all true, but here's the thing. None of that will matter at all, because the underlying problem, the banking industry is still there. The banks are bigger now than they were back in 2008 when they were too big to fail. There's more derivative risky bets than there were in 2008. There's more money being gambled on than there is in the economy now. We can't even bail them out if we have to.
Well,
we are literally on a ticking time bomb, and all the stuff you're talking about, and this is what I'm talking about with Obama in general. He will solve issues. Those are important issues, but if the economy collapses, what does that matter?
Yeah, no, that's very fair. And I'm reading a New York Post opinion piece because that's top of the line for journalism, but. It's all about how Obama's setting us up for another housing crash.
Yeah.
And to literally just read the headline. But it's saying how since this was written in 2016. So they're saying over the last couple years, the debt to income ratio has gone up and up for home buyers as the value of houses has skyrocketed because now we're out of that crash, more or less. And at the same time, Obama's been trying to invest in first-time homebuyers, which is the only reason I was able to buy the house that I'm living in right now, is because they gave us programs that let me put lower down payments down and have... But the thing is, we still needed to prove so much shit about our income and all this stuff, and that's the thing that Phil was getting at before, is the argument of how do you invest in poor people trying to climb up and invest in property without having without having so many risky mortgages. So Phil, how do you walk that line?
You don't. This is an inherent problem with loans and like the banking system in general. It's always going to have instability. I mean,
well, it doesn't have. Because we got rid of Glass-Steagall, it's always going to have instability. Clinton got rid of Glass-Steagall.
Yeah.
Because
yes.
Until we got rid of Glass-Steagall,
some backstory on that to the listeners.
Glass-Steagall was part when the Great Depression happened. Glass-Steagall basically was instated to make sure that banks could not gamble with your money. So what happened with the 2008 crash, Clinton was really one that caused the 2008 crash the most. Because basically, before he left office, he made it so Glass-Steagall was gone, saying we don't need any more. And now what we have to look forward to is unfettered capitalism, which means bigger, more regular boom and bust cycles. And the booms are going to get lower and the busts are going to get worse. And that's thanks to Clinton and the system we have now.
Yeah, it is important to note that, like, in a capitalist economy, like, booms and busts are just par for the course. Like, it's never not had that. And bankers always do provide a service that is an unproductive one at its core. They are making money by not actually producing anything. They are just moving money around and taking some of it from everyone else. That's, like, inherent in banking. And it's been like that for thousands of years. This is why... it was illegal for Christians to be bankers for thousands in many European countries because they're like, this is against the Bible. That's why they made Jews be bankers, and that's why every time there was an economic crash in any country, they're like, oh, the fucking Jews took all our money.
Yeah.
Because bankers don't do anything besides take your money.
Yeah.
But
one of the just real quick, just to go into a little more detail about that. Sorry to cut you off, Phil, but when they say gambling with your own money, this is why the bailouts happened, because all these loans and everything that they're buying and selling with, like, that was with people's, like, 401ks. And, like, they were using other, like, if you go to Chase and deposit money, they are using that money to make these gambles. So
and what Glass-Steagall did is separate commercial banking and investment banking. So they would still gamble with your stock money.
Yeah.
But that's because that's
what
what
for.
it's what you're investing for. You, like, make me fucking money with this. Whereas commercial banking is like, hey, I want to put my savings. Those were separated with Glass-Steagall.
Yeah,
so
and
even if the stock market crashes, companies will still go down, people will still lose their jobs, but your savings
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that will be protected.
And that's why when Slice says too big to fail, that's what
Yeah.
it means is, like, if Chase was to go under during the mortgage crash, so many people, like millions and millions of people, would lose all of their life savings.
Yeah, and the like Bernie Sanders and Warren keep suggesting the solution is to break up the big banks so they can't be as big anymore, and to reinstate Glass-Steagall so they can't gamble the money anymore. And that's what Obama should have fought for specifically. But
we could have had it all. We could have had a Bernie, but we didn't. So
What was the reason for getting rid of Glass-Steagall? Like, what was it doing
They-
that was
they-
wrong?
Clinton and his neoliberal pieces of shit, little neoliberal assholes, all were like, we
They're
don't need it anymore.
literal assholes.
But like they were little neoliberals. Like I'm not being like just
Yeah,
using the
yeah,
term.
I know.
Little neoliberals were like, we don't need it anymore. It's a banking staple now. It's fine.
yeah, because it was 60 years after the passage of it. They're just like, we don't. This isn't
Oh, they
necessary.
just
It's
felt it was
very-
like draconian.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of when they repealed the Voters' Rights Act.
I was about to
They're
say
like,
that.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's over.
Racism's over.
It's almost as if we're going backwards to 1920s and earlier
Yeah.
now.
So what is Trump gonna do about the banking?
Yeah. So now after I shit on Dodd-Frank, I'm going to say, like most of Obama's policies, it wasn't good enough, but man, it's going to suck now it's going away. Because
Yeah.
now, just like Obamacare, Trump wants to. He already passed an executive order to start tearing away at.
For context, we're recording this Wednesday the 8th. So in Trump's America, these things change every fucking 2 hours. So yeah, 3:52 have Wednesday the 8th.
So last Friday, he right now it's just an executive order to just ask bankers like, what do you hate about Chris Dodd-Frank, and what can we appeal from it? Basically, just to see what the bankers want to get rid of.
Yeah, because he can't actually do anything to it with executive orders.
Yeah.
He has to, and it has to go through Congress.
Oh, don't worry, Congress fucking always does the right thing. Thanks,
Yeah.
Betsy DeVos. Yeah.
I just saw several articles on The Hill saying that it's worse than it sounds. Like he's actually not going to be able to repeal most of it.
I have no faith in the Senate or the House to not just do the shittiest thing.
Yeah, and so what the executive order did do that's actually substantive, it repeals the fiduciary rule, which hasn't gone into effect yet. It was supposed to come into effect in 2017. It was issued under Obama appointee Tom Perez. It will require financial advisors to choose their client's interest first when investing in money, as opposed to in choosing investments that will result in higher commissions for
Oh,
themselves.
yeah. I remember hearing about that.
How does anybody justify this?
It's because it's capitalism. You get to.
No.
It's about giving these people an opportunity to make a profit.
Okay, so this is how Trump justifies it. I have so many people, friends of mine, with nice business. They can't borrow money because the banks won't let them borrow because the rules and regulations in Dodd-Frank. That's why we have to get rid of it.
Yeah, you have to think when something sounds crazy. Just think like who wants this to be passed and what are they thinking? And a lot of them are like, my business is suffering.
No,
and
I
therefore,
understand why billionaires and millionaires want this repealed. I see so many fucking
but that's because we always say like they want to be millionaires one day, but it's not. A lot of them will buy into this rhetoric which isn't all untrue. That when companies do well, they invest that in American jobs.
But
and
what is untrue?
infrastructure.
What is untrue is the idea. The second part of that regulations inherently always stifle American businesses,
Yes.
and they'll boom. I don't know what the term is. Where it grows to infinity, and it will never go down.
Exponential growth.
Exponential growth, yes. It's infinite exponential growth.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people don't realize is that they're
that's
taking
not
away
a real
regulation.
thing, and that doesn't happen.
Well, it's more like when you take away regulation, the cost to the consumer versus the benefit of the business often is not actually like they're going to save a little bit of money to fuck over us real bad.
And that's the thing is all those things that we're talking about, all those transparencies that the banks have to provide under Dodd-Frank, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And the paperwork had to be written so that not economists could understand what they were signing.
Yeah.
Whereas when I talked to my parents about it, they were like, I had no idea, we just had to sign 10,000 pieces of paper.
And as they say in the Big Short, they even say this, that the banks rely on you not being able to understand. That's how they rip you off, literally. And now that we're going back to in most cases with healthcare, with the banking industry, we're going back to the Wild West where you're on your own and you don't know the stuff inside out. You're fucked. You're going to be fucked over.
So when do you think the next crash is going to be?
The predictions used to be when the assumptions were that Hillary was going to be next president. It was late 2017. So maybe that's still true, and especially with Trump probably making it worse. Who knows?
Maybe the economy will boom under Trump.
Yeah,
Well-
because we've had a period of complete growth under Obama. Naturally, it's going to keep going. That's what capitalism really believes. The idea that you will never go bust ever
Yeah,
again.
you boom forever.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you fucking Trump supporters got fixed rate mortgages, because if not, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of our Trump supporters that are listening to our podcast.
Well, you know,
Hey, I listen to fucking right wing assholes, and maybe some right wing assholes listen to us.
Yeah. Fuck you, right here, asshole. You piece of shit. Thank you for listening. Support the show.
I mean, you could be right wing and not be an asshole. But
Yeah, I know, but I listen to specifically right wing assholes.
yeah, but if you want to repeal Dodd-Frank without any sort of replacement regulation, sorry, fuck you, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
No, repeal first, ask questions later. That's the new policy.
Yeah.
Repeal Obamacare. What are we replacing with?
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. We'll figure it
So
out.
the
Just tell our
best thing-
constituents it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, so that's been our show then, right?
Yeah.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to Upside Down Politics.
Wait, hold on.
All right, yeah,
Gotta
you go
do
ahead.
the thing.
Yeah.
Oh wait, watch The Big Short if you haven't.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
You'll probably like it, and if not, it'll be interesting for you to see stuff that you haven't thought about recently. Probably.
Yeah. And I would, if you guys, agree with Darryl that maybe it's not as great as we think it is, you should definitely tell us about it in our Facebook group, because it's been popping off lately and everyone's really mad. And I want to thank everyone who joined me for the Bernie Sanders-Ted Cruz debate stream, which was a lot of fun. We had like 10 people in there.
Wow.
And we watched it and did like commentary on it and got really mad and all cheered when Ted Cruz congratulated someone for having MS.
Oh my god.
So it was a lot of fun. So everyone should join the Upside Talk Politics Facebook group and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere you find podcasts. And check
At
out
all your local bookstores,
Yes.
wherever you find podcasts.
where you can get transcripts of us. And check out any other shows you want on the Comrade Radio Network. It's really good. Who should we talk about, guys? Who's good? Everybody.
Square Roots.
Square Roots. They're halfway
that's always
through.
Phil's choice.
It's because I'm always like thinking about Final Fantasy in my life.
Oh wait,
so.
actually, you should check out Square Roots because it's KOTOR. They're halfway through KOTOR and it's been really fun so far. But you should. I know I mentioned this recently, but by the time this comes out, you should listen to Instant Classic because Darryl's on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Final Fantasy 15, and we're about halfway through it, and it is, boy, that is a podcast.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Oh, you'll find out if you listen to it.
Okay.
And just to be clear, Instant Classic has nothing to do with Classic Schmassic.
Yeah, they're different. And
I thought they were a spin-off show.
Me too.
it's a spin-off of Square Roots.
Yeah.
And I just did an episode with JB and Malcolm on the Comrade Radio feed. Me and JB watched The Godfather for the first time. And spoilers, it was pretty good.
It's a pretty good movie.
It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. So that's all I got. Now do what you need to do, Sly.
Thanks for listening to Upside Talk Politics. I've been Dodd-Frank.
I've been Glass-Steagall.
I've been a right-wing asshole.
And I've been a stripper that owns 5 houses.
Oops, I end the podcast.